We'd like to, designate you as the group to receive this donation. I had no idea that it was going to be to the degree that it is. The kids are awesome. It's just wonderful to see them involved and so excited over the animals. It's a really positive experience, and I think it's great for every kid to have that.
There are many things for which dogs are uniquely gifted, from finding the lost to touching a child's heart. As the Arizona Search Dogs continue to work hard preparing for the unthinkable, they also easily inspire affection and generosity of spirit wherever they go, doing more than most dogs to prove what's possible when humans and canines get together.
After you've worked with a dog for a while, you have a relationship that you can't put into words. You just can't. If you're a dog lover, if you like that sort of thing and have a relationship with an animal, that's probably as good as it's going to get.
It's overwhelming to see them work and how they do it, and the trust that's there.
Okay, one more time because she had a little problem.
I would never put her in a situation or an environment that would be dangerous or an environment that she couldn't handle. So, there's that bond, and I just enjoy watching her work and giving her the opportunity to try to save people. There's just a lot of satisfaction.
Only on Fox, in the days after 9/11, it was the rescue dogs that literally stuck their noses into the debris. Now researchers want to know if those same dogs are suffering lingering health problems as a result.
But more than 3 years after leaving the devastation of Lower Manhattan, it is business as usual for a Valley dog and a Phoenix search and rescue team.
Ready to go to work?
Meet Rio.
Go. Find.
Rio and Captain John Dean are part of Arizona Task Force 1, an urban search and rescue team. This is just a drill. Rio does this several times a week at this Phoenix rubble pile. It looks like hard work, but to Rio, it's just a game.
It's just really a game of hide and seek for them.
Hiding in the rubble, another Phoenix firefighter with Rio's toy.
The thing that we're really looking for is their play drive. They want the toy more than anything in the world. They don't understand the seriousness of it. They're just out to have fun.
I hope I live. I hope I live. It's coming down on me.
September 11th, 2001, the beginning of a national nightmare. New York's Twin Towers are destroyed, and just hours later, dog search and rescue teams are there looking for survivors. Rio and John Dean are among them, and it's anything but fun.
They reflect our feelings and our moods.
A difficult experience for both man and dog, because there were no survivors to find.
If you're having a bad day, they're having a bad day, and it's just as simple as that. There's no big secret to it. All these dogs are so driven, you have to be the brake. They'll give and give until they've gone too far.
This is Kinsey. He's also a rescue dog who worked on what they called the pile on 9/11.
I remember walking around the corner and seeing it, and the first thought I had was my dog's going to die. It scared me to death.
Bob Deed's dog from a Texas FEMA team is one of 17 taking part in a study sponsored by IMES. Researchers at North Carolina State's Veterinary Teaching Hospital want to find out if dogs who worked on 9/11 have any lingering health effects.
It's okay if I take a look at you, good girl. We are looking for changes in the nasal passages of these dogs that may indicate early signs of chronic inflammation or certain types of other diseases such as cancer.
After an MRI of her respiratory system, Kinsey gets a clean bill of health.
She's doing great, yeah. Absolutely. Nice and normal.
Which is a relief to everyone.
The bond that we have is just, it's not like your regular pet. It's through the roof. And in fact, my wife jokes sometimes that this is my second wife.
Although not taking part in the study, Rio is checked regularly by a vet who is part of the Phoenix Search and Rescue Unit.
She gives them annual physicals. They even get the echocardiograms, blood work, just on an annual basis.
And 8-year-old Rio shows no ill effects from his experience in New York.
So far, he hasn't even slowed down a bit.
Because every time they go into action, steps are taken to make sure everyone is safe. They don't go anywhere without a team that includes structural engineers, medics, and hazardous materials specialists.
So they're out there with the meters checking the air before I send the dog out.
Back out on the Phoenix rubble pile, Rio finds his quarry.
When you hear that, there is nothing better. That means he's done his job.
A volunteer firefighter is freed from his hole, and playtime begins.
And then as a handler, we try to stay out of it. All the interaction comes from the victim.
And even after he's eventually replaced by younger pups now on their way up, this is one urban rescue team that will be together for years to come.
I enjoy it. I like the relationship with the dogs. That's my buy-in for this. I don't think there's many times I'm not with him. I spend more time with him than I do with my wife, and I think he and my wife like that.
There is a bond there. So far, all 17 dogs taking part in the IMES study have been cleared of any health problems, but they plan to keep tracking them. As for Rio, John Dean says his dog still has good years in him, even after retirement. He says Rio will always be part of his family.
They come from cities and towns across the country. Men and women trained especially for rescuing victims in urban environments. Cities traumatized by disaster, hurricanes, earthquakes, floods, and acts of terrorism. These elite task forces are urban search and rescue teams called USAR. They are one way the federal government works to save lives when our cities are in crisis. In this episode of Investigative Reports, the unique bravery and heroism of urban search and rescue. They say that every disaster is local. National urban disasters like the attacks of September 11th are initially handled by local police and firefighters, who are our front line of defense. But the unique demands of a crisis in a metropolitan area require the aid and expertise of the urban search and rescue teams. Part of FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, these urban search and rescue teams are highly specialized, elite task forces who focus on pulling victims out of the rubble. In this episode of Investigative Reports, we meet the men and women who risk their lives in order to save lives in our nation's cities. New York lost much more than buildings and people in the terror attacks of September 11th. Gone in the collapse of the World Trade Center were hundreds of local firefighters. Even the city's elite emergency response unit, Rescue 1. Firefighters and rescue personnel from around the world would eventually make their way to help their brothers in New York City. After the Oklahoma City bombing, the newly formed urban search and rescue teams realized they were up against a new enemy. Disaster City was established in 1998 as a direct response to the nation's fight against domestic terrorism. Investigative Reports traveled to Texas to see what some are calling the proving grounds for our nation's urban search and rescue teams. Local emergency first responders and USAR team members train here in preparation for the next mission. Disaster City is part of a 120-acre emergency response and rescue training field. It's part of the University of Texas in College Station. Tim Gallagher is the team leader of Texas Task Force 1. Today he's training and working with members of his own task force. Tim is a longtime firefighter, a veteran of Oklahoma City, and now the World Trade Center. So his team listens carefully.
What we have here is a rubble pile. This is very similar to the situation we found in Oklahoma City out in front of the building. You saw the floors collapse into one big rubble pile of concrete. And that's exactly what we have here.
In New York City, huge pieces of steel presented very different obstacles. But the problem remains. A man-made structure has been brought violently to the ground. There are victims trapped inside, people who need to be rescued. That's what the team prepares for at Disaster City. Before the exercise begins, team members put a live victim down into a void in the pile.
We send a recon team out that consists of several members, canine search component, technical search component, structural engineer, and a few other folks. First thing we would do would be to send up our canines. The canine is trained to find the strongest scent. Once they find that scent, they will alert. They'll bark. They'll bark several times. And that notifies the handler that we have a victim. Based on the training of the dog, the signal the canine gives may indicate a live victim or a deceased victim.
Once the canine team interprets the alert, they will then want to verify the bark with their technical search equipment.
The search cam is a fiber optic device that we can stick down into the cracks, crevices. That head articulates around and the view comes up on the monitor itself. And that way the technical search specialist can see whether or not there's actually a victim there.
You in the hole. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
How are you?
I feel fine. Just need to get out of here.
All right, you heard anywhere?
No, I feel fine.
No interest, you're just stuck. All right, we'll get a team out here and we'll get you right out.
Thank you.
One of the other things we would like to do is monitor that space with an atmospheric monitor. A couple things we're looking at, the oxygen concentration, if there's any flammable atmospheres in there, if there's any toxic atmospheres.
National and local preparedness requires much different thinking than it did before September 11th. In addition to refining their ability to react to disasters, FEMA and its urban search and rescue teams are focused on being proactive in metropolitan areas where crises might occur, as we saw with their work on the Salt Lake City Olympics. The national spotlight has focused congressional attention, and it appears that the number of USAR teams will be increased. As always, the teams will be at the ready. Their motto, adapt and overcome, serves them well. I'm Bill Curtis. Thanks for watching Investigative Reports here on A&E.